people coming in.
Yeah. What I will tell everybody who's here, just because you got here early, is pay attention. That's a spoiler. Pay attention. There might be something at the end. Just saying. Pay attention. You gotta pay attention.
Because we never pay attention, right?
I don't know. I don't know, but you know, a fair bit of planning went into this. So I want to see who's paying attention.
Rick can't say anything about a test.
That's what it looks like. It looks like.
Marcelo, did you say something? I wasn't paying attention.
All right. The professor's
so
going to give us an exam at the end.
Yeah. So before just before we get started, I'll kind of semi let the cat out of the bag, but you're gonna see.
Okay. Where's the cat?
You see the cat. The cat's right here next to me. You'll see. You'll see.
It probably means you get a car, you get a car, we all get a car.
We all get a car.
Not exactly.
Is that right, Marcelo? We all get a car.
There you go.
Not exactly. Not exactly. I'm gonna wait till you know.
All right. Let's get going, guys.
Let's get going. Let's get going, Rick.
So thank you very much, guys. My name is Rick Riguera. You've got the team all here. I'm excited to represent the South Florida Agile Association. I am the president of the group, but we're all just one big team, okay? Nelu, are you there on the bridge? You want to go
yes,
ahead and
sir.
put the site just to make sure? So what we asked for you is just take a look at the site. We have events on a Wednesday and Saturday. And I always like to mention, how much do we pay for this, Marcelo? How much money do everybody have to contribute?
It's free, as in beer.
Free as in beer.
Beer. It's free. Nothing.
So knowing that, again, did you put it on the chat, Nelu?
Yes. Yes, she did.
All right, awesome. If you want to just share that real quick, that would be great. So the idea, again, that we provide services to help the community, especially during these times. It's important that we give back, and we've been doing that for a long time now. Regina, we're gonna have to find out how many days, because we've been doing this since it first started, and even before that. So we've been really giving back to the community. We should have like a count. Look how many days we've actually been giving back to the community.
I think I've been going to every single one for 6 months now.
Oh my God. So here's the thing. I talked to somebody today who was pregnant right before COVID-19, and the baby's 8 months now. So
what?
I'm like, have we been doing this for 8 months?
No.
I was like, oh my God.
I did. Oh, you mean gave birth during?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, awesome. Thank you, Regina, for that feedback. So again, if you can go ahead and click on the link, you'll see that there's a lot of events in our website there. Please go ahead and join us. This is on a Wednesday, but we also do this on a Saturday. Saturday is pretty exciting stuff. We're breaking into smaller teams. We're doing a taste of Agile in Spanish, Somos Ágil, right? So we're even doing events in that sense. And we're having an advanced session as well. And we also have a session where you actually get to practice and do what Agile is, right? What is Agile and how do you actually practice it? We're gonna give you that if you go on Saturday and actually participate in building out a product. So really exciting stuff out there. And even for people that are beginners, you're learning Agile for the first time, visit our Saturday session, and we have a beginner session as well, okay? So moreover, we're here for you. I'm gonna pass on the baton to Marcelo so he can introduce our guest.
Awesome,
Marcelo.
thank you, Rick. Thank you, appreciate it. So I'm really excited for tonight, guys. I've known Fabian for 5 years now, worked with him before, trained with him before. A few months back, just before COVID, he published this book. I'm going to turn off my my virtual background and show you guys that you saw in the advertisement. Published this book just before COVID. It's called Your Scrum Playbook. It's poker, not chess. I read it. It's chock full of great information, beginner, practitioner. I mean, it's a great book. Guys, it's not necessarily whether you should go out and get
So
it. It's
Marcelo,
that
just to
one
know,
of you
I
guys.
don't see your video right now.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, I'm sorry. I had turned it off. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. It's your Scrum Playbook. It's fresh, hot off the presses, published this year, pre-COVID. It's resistant to COVID, and semi-spoiler alert: it's possible one of you might walk out of here with one tonight.
Woo!
Might walk out of here with one of these tonight. So surprise, surprise. But you got to pay attention. I did say you got to pay attention.
Did you say you have to pay, or what?
No.
Did you say? Oh, pay attention.
Remember, Rick, it's free as in beer.
Gotcha.
It's free as in beer. So, you know, I can tell you a ton of stuff and go on for a long time telling you about Fabian, but I'll let you get to know him yourself. He's a really good friend of mine. So without further ado, I'm going to give the floor back out to Fabian. Fabian, show him what you got.
Yeah, thank you, Marcelo, for the great introduction. We'll try to share my screen. Give me a second. So what I would like to do today is split that into 3 parts. So at the beginning, I would like to talk a little about the journey of writing that book and why I actually wrote it, which I never wanted to do in the first time. And second, I will talk about one of the topics I talk about in the book. It was like an excerpt about decisions, basically. And at the end, we have a little time for Q&A, for questions and answers, if you have any questions. So probably, who am I is a good question in the beginning. My name is Fabian Schwartz. I'm a native German, but I'm now here for like last 10 years in South America. I've worked for more than 20 years in projects, initially in Germany, then in Australia, and now in the Americas, basically from Canada down to Argentina. And my specialty is project management. So I actually started working in traditional project management. I'm actually a PMP certified person. But from 2007 on, I had contact with Scrum and Agile, and I mean, I was pretty resistant, but after a while, I learned to love it. And now we have a company here in Latin America, basically operating. It's called the Scrum Network, which is doing Scrum consulting and coaching and training. Okay. So let me start with the first part. So why did I write another Scrum book? So I think it was.
Hey Google, stop.
Sorry, what?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Let me share again. So why did I write a book in the first time? So I think it was in 2014 when people in our company started to tell me, maybe you should write a book. But the reasons they had for me telling that was for marketing reasons. So they thought it was pretty good marketing if we have a book and we can say like, oh, Fabian is an author and he has a book. So I said, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to write a book. We don't need another book. Basically, we don't need another Scrum book because we have the Scrum Guide, right? So the Scrum Guide is pretty short, it's concise, and it tells you exactly what you have to do. So that went on and on for a while, and also if you look at Amazon, there are tons of other Scrum books. So I was always thinking, well, why would I confuse people more? The Scrum Guide tells us exactly what to do. That's enough. So don't bother me more. Well, they kept bothering me. So with time, we actually learned something interesting. So if you look at the Scrum Guide, I guess some or most of you are familiar with the Scrum Guide. It says Scrum Guide, or the definite guide to Scrum, the rules of the game. Okay. In a certain sense, that is something interesting. It means that is something you have to do in order to play Scrum if you want. So if you compare it to a board game, let's say chess. If you want to play chess, well, what you have to do first is you have to know the rules, correct? So you can't suddenly pull out a dragon and put a dragon on your chessboard, because then you don't play chess anymore. Or worse, you can't play just with your pawns. You play probably something like checkers, but you don't play chess. And it was time we started learning that our clients had sometimes serious problems with Scrum, and they were usually based in, first of all, not applying the full rules. So they were doing a daily Scrum and probably having a Scrum Master, and that's what they call Scrum, and they didn't see results, and they were wondering why. So the first thing we told them, well, you have to apply the all rules. You can't play chess without your king or your queen, so you should apply all the rules. But then we learned more and more. First of all, we learned that people never ask us what they have to do. They ask us, how should we do that? And if you think about that, let's say if you want to play chess, and let's say you just learned the rules. So what's the probability for you to win a game against some average player? It's not pretty high, right? Because the only thing you know are the rules. So if you want to win at any game, knowing the rules are not enough. The rules just enable you to participate. But you need strategies, or you need, like you say in sports, plays, in order to win. So with time, we in the company started to understand, well, there might be actually a lack of information in the written Scrum world, which is the how. How are you going to do that? What are the strategies you should apply, or you could apply in order to be more successful? And that was when I started to think a little more serious about writing that book. But obviously I didn't just start writing. Happened to do some work with Dr. Jeff Sutherland, the co-creator of Scrum. And I remember once I asked him, well, Jeff, if you would write another book about Scrum, what would you put into the book? What do you think is missing? So he told me a couple of things. Like I remember particularly he told me about, okay, we need to talk more about Scrum patterns. We need to talk about lean principles. We need to talk about scaling and some other stuff. So by that time, I already considered myself more or less a Scrum expert, but you know, I think there's no such thing as an expert that has arrived. It's all a journey, so you have to keep learning. So I basically started to get more involved in the topics he told me, and I studied them. So, for example, I studied pattern with James Copeland, the leader of the patterns group. Started with Mike Cohn, co-creator of Scrum Alliance. I also investigated several scaling frameworks. I studied SAFe with Dean Leffingwell, the creator of SAFe. Less with Craig Larman, the creator of Less. I looked into some other frameworks. I actually did help Jeff to review the initial Scrum at Scale guide, 2018 in Boston. I did work with Scrum for Scrum and Hardware. I wrote the Scrum and Hardware guide with Joe Justice. I looked into the flow system with Nigel Serlo, and lots more. So I didn't just start writing a book. First of all, I wanted to really learn about or to really form my own opinion about all these different ideas and different frameworks and different methods. And based on that, I then started writing a book. I thought it will, if I block out some time, it will probably take some months to get that done. That was a huge mistake. It took me more than a year, and that considering that I wrote actually every 3 minutes I have. I wrote on a plane, I wrote in a taxi, I wrote in breaks of our trainings, I wrote in early mornings, late nights, and the editor always had lots of complaints about my writing style, so we had to adjust lots of stuff. So it took way more than a year to actually get to a book that we can publish. But finally, I think it was, as Marcelo said, February this year, we get the English version out. The marketing agency produced a nice trailer. It's pretty short, but so I might show you that. So that's the trailer for the book. so I thought that was a nice trailer. If you're interested you're not lucky with what Marcelo is offering here, there's the link to Amazon, but you can also get it at every major retailer, Barnes and Nobles. Well, the second part of this talk is about decisions, which is one of the things I'm going to talk. I'm actually writing about in the book. And you might think, well, isn't the book about Scrum? Yes, it is. But as you will see in a moment, one advantage of Scrum is that it is designed to improve your decision-making process, to speed it up and also to make better decisions. So let me talk a little bit about decisions itself. Okay. And let me start by telling you why I think talking about decisions and Scrum is important. At the end, many people use Scrum to handle their projects. And there's a very famous report, which is called the Chaos Report by Standish Group. And for over 2 decades now, they publish this report and analyze the success rate of projects around the world. Okay. Now in 2018, the Standish Group took a look at all the data they have, trying to figure out if there's any driver, any attribute of project success or failure they haven't seen yet. That we know, until 2018, we know, for example, that longer projects are less successful than shorter projects, that bigger projects are less successful than smaller projects, and that agile projects are more successful than traditional projects. And in 2018, they looked at all their data and they found out that there is a factor actually, and it's the #1 driver for project failure and project and budget overruns, something we didn't know before. And they call it decision latency, which is basically the time spent between the need for a decision to be made and the time it is actually made. They call it decision latency, basically the time you need to make a decision if you want. Okay. So what they found is that people or teams, projects that make decisions faster are a lot more successful than teams that take longer in making decisions. So the difference you can see here, so bad decision latency, 18% success rate, a good decision latency, 58% success rate, which means decision latency can improve, or improving your decision latency can improve your success rate in a project by 300%. Okay, 300% only looking at one factor, making decisions faster. Now, if you want to know what's fast and slow in that case, so for them, good decision latency is less than 1 hour. Bad decision latency is more than 5 hours. That's actually interesting because if you look at teams that have hierarchies, several hierarchies, that is very difficult for them to get decisions if they have to involve hierarchies in less than 5 hours, or less than 1 hour is basically impossible. So as soon as you have to escalate a decision, you're probably out of the 1 hour range. And if you have 1 or 2 hierarchies, you're probably already out of the 5 hour range. So you need flat structures, and Scrum is optimized for that. But let's talk a little bit more about decision itself. So maybe you're wondering about the subtitle of the book. It's called Your Scrum Playbook. It's poker, not chess. So you might think, oh, well, that's like a weird title. So I'm actually a huge fan of chess and poker. And during my MBA, they basically taught us that you have to see business as a game of chess. So you analyze all the players, you analyze all the possible moves, then you make a decision and you make your move, right? Now the problem is that chess actually does not contain any hidden information. So there's really no luck involved in chess. It's like both players can see all the pieces all the time. If you lose, it's because the other guy plays better than you. So it's skill only. But poker is different, okay? In a game of poker, you have incomplete information. You have some information, so it's not playing roulette. So it's not just pure luck, there's skill involved, but it's incomplete information. So what you're doing in poker is a decision under conditions of uncertainty. Making decisions with incomplete information. And this next thing comes actually from Annie Duke, a famous poker player. She published a book, and she says decisions are bets on the future, and I like that a lot. Okay, so the subtitle comes from all these ideas of Annie Duke, and that we're actually in business playing poker. We're not playing chess. Those two things are here also from her book. So we said decisions are bets on the future. So what happens? If you have to take a decision, what you do is you believe something and you have a set of outcomes. And you believe, okay, based on what I know, based on my mental model, this decision will have the best result, the best outcome for me. So you take the decision, but you basically bet. You bet that with what you know, you get the best outcome. So that's what's the decision, right? Betting on the future. Now, based on that, we can actually learn. So Scrum is a framework that helps us to learn. It has several mechanisms, helps us to learn, like the retrospective and the review. And if you look at it again, so at the beginning, we believe in something, then we bet on that, and then we have an outcome. Now, if we are good, and if the outcome and the bet are close together, we usually learn from that. Like, the important thing to consider is that if you have a positive outcome, it is not always 100% due to your skill. There's also some part of luck involved. So for example, let's say you go to the casino, you bet on roulette, you bet all your money on 5 and you win. Well, I think nobody would say, oh, I'm really skilled in playing roulette. From now on, I become a professional roulette player and always will bet on 5 and will get rich with that. Everybody knows that's luck. In business, that's the same. Not every decision we make and delivers a good outcome is actually only based on skill. So we have to take that into account, but it helps us to learn. Okay. So if we can see which part of that was skill, we can adjust our beliefs and we can improve our bets, which actually means we make better decisions. Now let's enter into the decision-making process. In 2018, there's another famous business book from Ray Dalio, Principles, and he's talking a lot about decision-making here. The first thing he's saying is that the biggest threat to good decision-making are actually emotions. Okay, that means don't make decisions when you're really happy. Don't make decisions when you're really angry. Okay, try to make decisions when you're in a stable and neutral state. Second, he says, in a very easy way, let's say, that decisions or making decisions is a two-step process. First, learn. Second, decide. Okay. Now, the learning part is usually the difficult part. Like once you have all the information and you think you have all the information, well, you just then decide according to what you believe is best. The learning part is the difficult part. Okay. And the first recommendation is you should take into account not only first order consequences, which is what most people do. So if you make a decision, that decision will have a first order result. You make a decision, there's an immediate result. For example, you go to McDonald's, you eat a Big Mac, and it probably tastes good. Okay. Many people ignore second order consequences. So if you for example, Big Macs, on the long term, you will become unhealthy. Okay. So you should take into account when you learn about what's the best decision, when you get all your information, well, take into account first order and second order consequences. Okay. And the way you learn is, well, you try to get information, but then in many occasions you talk to people. You ask them about, okay, what's your opinion? What do you think about that? So this can be really helpful. It can also be really bad. Depends on who you ask. Okay. So the important thing is if you ask people, which will take up your time, you should ask people that are experts in that field. Okay. So So to give you an example, I'm here in Colombia, so people on many occasions you. Okay. So in one particular case, I was sitting there on a table and with the family, and somebody was asking about the trip to Germany. Now I'm not part really of that family. It was just there to visit. So, but I'm native German and I lived there for 30 years, so I have a pretty good idea about Germany. There was another aunt. She did a trip probably 10 years ago to Europe, not even to Germany, to Europe for 2 weeks. And what they did is, or what the person evaluating the situation and trying to learn about Germany was asking her aunt. And I said, well, I could give you probably some good information about Germany, but because her aunt is her aunt, well, she trusted her aunt more, and at the end used that information. Now, this is a problem because everybody has an opinion about everything, but few people have an educated opinion about something. Okay. So if you talk to other people, that can be very helpful, but make sure that these people have merit in the topic you ask them about. Okay. And there's another point. So until now, we're talking about you have to speed up decisions. You have to make decisions as fast as possible. Well, this is only true. Okay. Because if it's a reversible decision is a decision you can undo very easily. Easy and cheap, let's say. Let's say you buy a car, you don't like it, well, you can sell it again. It's a reversible decision. Okay. Now, let's say you have a mosquito on your table and you kill that mosquito. Well, that's a non-reversible or irreversible decision. The mosquito is dead. You can't undo that. Okay. So in your projects, you will always have reversible and irreversible decisions. So reversible decisions you should take as fast as possible. For irreversible decisions, you should wait as long as possible. You should wait until the last responsible moment when you have the most information to make that decision. Okay. Now, to bring in another decision heavyweight, Colonel John Boyd from the US military. Colonel John Boyd, also called 40 Seconds Boyd, was a fighter pilot in the US military. And he could defeat any opposing pilot in a simulated air-to-air combat in less than 40 seconds. And he actually put $20 bet out on that, and nobody ever won those $20 because he's literally won every air-to-air combat, simulated air-to-air combat. He do that? Well, and this decision framework is actually incorporated into Scrum. I guess some of you know that Jeff Sutherland, the co-creator of Scrum, also is a fighter pilot, or was a fighter pilot. So this is a little bit more, or looks a little bit more complicated than what we saw before. We've always said it's about learning and deciding. So the learning phase here, and this is what's called the OODA loop, is broken down into two parts: observe and orient. While observe is basically getting the information, orient is making sense of the information. And this is the biggest problem for almost everybody. Most people fail to orient well because they look only for information that confirm their theory. This is called the information bias. So if I believe something, I tend to ignore everything that contradicts my ideas, and I only look for evidence that confirm my ideas. While what you actually should do in order to create a good or make a good decision, you should look for mismatches. Okay. This is where you really learn. This is where you really make good decisions. To give an example, so John Boyd had an exercise that he did with his pilots. He was also a fighter pilot trainer. And the exercise goes more or less like that. So he tells them, okay, imagine you are here in a snowy mountain range. You have a bicycle, a motorboat, and a tank. You can take them all apart and use all the parts to build something in order to to pass this snowy mountain range part. And this is what we are usually good at. This is what we are taught in school. You have a big problem, you break the problem apart into smaller problems, and we believe if we solve all these smaller problems, we can then put that back together and magically we have solved the big problem. Okay. But here comes the real problem. Like if he gave that to his students, they know now we have a bicycle, a motorboat, and a tank, so they take that apart, and whatever they put together, again, look like a bicycle, a motorboat, or a tank. Okay. So the real problem was that they are not able to use all these parts and create something new with these parts. Or basically what they're not able to do is what we commonly call connect the dots. We are not good at connecting the dots. We only put the dots together, or two no. So create a snowmobile, which is actually possible because you have the motor of the motorboat, the parts of the bicycle, and the chain of the tank. So you could actually do that, right? But people fail to do that, or most people fail to do that because we are not good in synthesis or integration, or commonly called connecting the dots. So this is one thing we really have to learn. Now, adding one more thing and bring that back to Scrum. So, how does Scrum help us to make decisions faster? Now, there's another book I make a reference to. It's called "Turn the Ship Around," and what they say is basically decisions should be made on the lowest possible level. That's also true for Scrum. Okay, in Scrum we have two kinds of decisions. We have the decision, what are we going to do? And we have the decision, how are we going to do that? So the what decision is a decision the product owner has to make. So it is important that the product owner in Scrum has the authority to actually make decisions. It sounds logically, but many of our clients don't have that. They have what we call a product owner proxy. So he's playing the role of the product owner, but for every decision he has to ask his boss. So they become slow. So the what decisions become slow. And the how decisions, so how are we going to achieve our goal, are made by the team, by the development team. Okay. And it's the same here. So the development team should have the autonomy to actually make those decisions, because as soon as they have to ask somebody outside the team to approve these decisions, they won't be able to make these decisions in an hour or less. So this is like one part of what I'm talking about in the book. This is the decision-making part. There's obviously lots more stuff in the book, like, for example, scaling, and should you actually scale? And if you have to scale, how you do that. There's also a basic Scrum in the book. If you start, there are strategies on how you should implement Scrum to become successful. We have several case studies of clients that have achieved continuously 400, 500, 600, 900% performance improvement. And it's not difficult, you just have to be a little bit disciplined. So with that, I would like to close the talking part, and would like to open the questions or Q&A part. So again, if you want to buy the book, you can go to Amazon or to Barnes & Noble, every other major retailer. It's called Your Scrum Playbook, it's Poker Not Chess. If you want to stay in touch, also no problem. I'm on LinkedIn. Just look up Fabian Schwartz. I'm happy to connect. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and looking forward to any question you might have.
I think you dropped the mic, Fabian. They're all completely silent, which is a tough thing to do for this group. They're usually very chatty Cathys.
So how has your life changed as soon as you wrote the book? Do you feel like, because I've heard stories where writing your first book really opens the door to a lot of opportunities. I'm just curious from your take.
I think there's two interesting things. The first thing is, like, I teach Scrum also, and I coach and consult companies on Scrum. And I thought I know Scrum, but the problem is, like, when you talk to somebody, you can always correct and the process. But when you write something, you have to bring something straight to the point. There's no second chance. You commit a mistake and there's no way to correct it later. So for several topics, I actually learned that I didn't understand that well enough to write that very precise and concise. So the book actually helped me a lot learning. That was interesting. And the other thing as well, I'm not that's good or bad, but I'm not now on lots of interviews and podcasts and webinars presenting the book. It's not Harry Potter, so I'm not a millionaire because of the book, but I think it did generate some fame.
Anyone else that has a question?
That's awesome.
Yes. We've got a question it mentioned, said you mentioned a study on decision latency. Is that study report available publicly, Fabian?
Yeah, you can go to Standish Group and look that up. I think you have to pay for that, but you can buy it. So it's publicly available. Look up decision latency and Standish Group.
Cool, thank you.
Question on the decision cycle. Since you said that you've had the pleasure of going to a number of companies throughout the world to help them in their Scrum transformation. So I'm assuming that you get quite often managers who have been accustomed to making decisions on behalf of everyone else, and you're trying to sell them on making quicker decisions and delegating those down to the lowest level. What kind of resistance do you get, and how do you actually convince them in the end?
Resistance, usually the more traditional and structured the company is, the more resistance we get when we ask them to make decisions on lower levels. We have a very big retail, like one of South America's biggest retail chains as our client. It's a family-owned company, but it's huge. And they have more than 120 years of history. And they learned the hard way with COVID, for example, that their way of working is way too slow to react to the environment. So the resistance was there, and the resistance is normal, because if you go somewhere and say to somebody, okay, well, I think it's not a good idea that you take the decision, somebody else should do that, whoever that else is, then most people don't like this idea. But if you can really show them the benefits of them, like for example, in that case, we talked directly to the operations manager, work with him, and we said, well, let's do some pilots. Okay, let's see what they do. Well, we don't take away all decision making right now. Let's just see what they do. And they improved so fast and changed so fast and adapted so fast to the new environment that basically he is now our advocate in the company, telling everyone, well, actually, it's not the managers that know everything, it's the people that are closest to the problem. And another thing we actually do is we recommend them General McChrystal's book, Team of Teams. And we tell them, okay, if the US Army can do that, well, you should be able to do that.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome. I think somebody else had a question there, but I may have cut them off earlier, so please step up.
You didn't mention this in your actual book, but a lot of times there's a lot of focus around Scrum, process, and everything else. What are your thoughts around how this incorporates with testing?
With test?
Testing.
Okay, test is another common issue.
Mm-hmm.
Many companies here have still manual testing, or at least partial manual testing. Okay, and this at the end will make you slow. Why? So in Scrum, we talk about at the end of each sprint, we want to have an increment, a product increment, a working done increment. So after one sprint, we have a small increment, and we're going to test that, and we launch that. Now, after the second sprint, the increment becomes bigger because we have added code, right? So now we have to test the new code, but we also have to test the old code to make sure that the new code didn't destroy the old code, which is called regression testing. Okay. So if you do that manually, what happens is this. Now, let's assume you're really good with Scrum. You get 900% performance improvement, and your development teams runs wild and just delivers and delivers and delivers and increase the increment. Well, now the people that do the test, they should be on the team, obviously, but the people that do the test, they become slower and slower and slower because they have to do more and more and more and more regression testing. Okay. So the only way to avoid that in the long run and not become slower is automated testing. It's the only way to solve that problem. Actually, to go automated testing, automated integration, automated delivery.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Let me ask you a question. What's the future? What's next coming up? You've got Scrum. Is there anything else next that you can see?
That's a good question, and that's another bet on the future, right? So, well, if I'm honest, I don't really know what's coming up. Right? The only thing we know is like things change. So we always try to be faster, to produce value faster, to be able to adapt faster to change. So what I think is happening right now, it's not the future, it's what's happening right now, is digital transformation. Okay. And that is usually supported by agile transformations, or trying to change the culture to a more agile culture. And I believe we will have in the future, Scrum or no, more decentralized small teams that swarm around customers. And there's a famous Harvard case study about Haya, a Chinese company that is actually almost fully structured. There's thousands of people fully structured in those small teams. What I also think is that we get more and more processes and work automated. And I think this is something interesting because that will make lots of us obsolete in the workplace. And this is something we should face. So the question is, what's the work that we still can do where we're still better than the machine or cheaper than the machine?
Hi, Fabian. I have a question. I know that you mentioned early on in your presentation that you asked Jeff what he would have liked to add to the book that maybe he may have left out. And I thought that was a really good question. I know that your book just came out in February, but through your conversations with other people, is there anything in your book that or anything that you've realized that you may have wanted to add to your book that maybe you didn't get a chance to do?
Yeah. There's one thing: Scrum and remote teams.
That's a good one.
So we actually do know lots of work around this, and it is possible. It's possible to create great results. We have lots of companies, including oil and gas companies, that went almost virtual from one day to another. So it is possible, and there are some things that are important to know that didn't make it into the book. So if there's will ever be a second edition, so then that's what I would add.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Marcelo,
wake up. Oh.
You want to say anything? Because I want to actually get a picture before we start rounding it down to the end. So this is what we do at the end of this of the event. We ask everyone to put their cameras on. That's the first thing that I would love for you guys to do. And interesting, a lot of what I captured, that quick decision making, that is a really key area that keeps dwelling in my mind. Like, oh my goodness, the closest to the work, gets to make that decision, gets to quickly make that adjustment so that, and then I love the part where you said, irreversible. That was really an interesting thing. And, and things that are not reversible, you got to be careful with making those quick decisions or being able to do that. So as for our theme, it could be making quick decisions or making the right decision. What kind of symbol would you put out to say I made the right decision. I made a quick decision. I made it happen real quick. What symbol would you actually project that says, you know, value, that you actually did something? What would that look like? So that's the symbol you're going to send out, and we're going to take a picture of this. Okay. And this is for you. So you can keep it close to you, Fabian, and have it and say, look, this team actually listened to what you projected. So what would represent that for you guys? I'm just curious. Let me see around. What kind of representation of being able to make the decision, the quick decision right away? What would that look like? Joe, what would that look like? Oh, I like that, Ray. I love that, Ray. Look at Ray. Ray,
Oh, yeah, okay.
I love that. Okay, anybody else?
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. I challenged you guys today, huh?
Yeah.
What was that? What was that, Bob? I don't get it. What's that? A pair of scissors? What is that? Oh, 3?
No, that's the symbol for Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
One decision I made that I will never back down from.
Awesome.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
All right. So we're gonna go ahead. Put your cameras on. Let's go. Ray, looking good, Ray.
Yeah, because we're almost to the 5th part, aren't we, Rick? The stuff where there's prizes involved.
Oh yes, we got to make sure to yes, and maybe it's the first person to like the website.
Well, actually, I'm gonna challenge them because they were quieter than usual. I know this was a very deep thinking subject. Okay, so it's going to be a little challenging to see who paid attention, but I think it's going to be well worth it. Okay,
all right.
So let's go ahead and take our picture, and then I'm going to put up the challenge for you guys.
So again, quickness. I love the snap. That's the one that I got out of it. That was really cool. Good, Ray. I'm going to copy you on that one. So I'm going to take a picture. Again, make sure you're smiling. Okay, smile. All right. Hopefully you guys were smiling. I already took it just in case you're smiling late. It's too late. All right. So I'm copying that image.
Awesome.
And putting it. I'm sending it to Nelu.
Okay.
Hey, Rick, I want to share something is that I think maybe the reason there were not that many questions is because this is such a deep topic and he did such a good job. I'm going to buy the book. So it's like there's so much there. I'm sure the book will answer a lot of the questions. So thank you very much. But yeah, I eagerly wait for it to.
There was one question that when someone talked about being remote reminded me, like we're talking about faster decisions. So being remote, has that had an impact on making those faster decisions, or is it even worse?
Yep. So Rick, you got the picture. Okay. So here's the challenge, and it's just for those that stuck around to the end. Okay. Remember when we started, I turned off my virtual Mandalorian background, and I held up a copy of this thing. Okay. This doesn't count for you, Bob, because I guess you already decided to buy it. But for the first person who can answer the question correctly, okay, back to me privately in chat, I will drop ship a copy of this book to you.
Why does it have to be private? Why don't you just put it right on the...
Well, I want it. Well, okay, fine, because whoever can track who answered it first, that's fine. I figured if it came directly to me, I'd be able to chat it. But if you want, whoever answers the following question correctly, you don't just answer, you got to answer it correctly, okay? I will make sure that one of these copies gets drop shipped to you. The following question is, what is a decision? Tell me what a decision is. Go. What is a decision?
Wow.
The answer to a question.
Try at it. You only get one try
Put
at
it in the chat. Put it on the chat.
Put it in the chat. Whoever
Somebody already
answers,
responded.
what is a decision? Let's see who is paying attention. What is a decision? Oh boy. Oh boy. It's looking sad, Fabian. It's looking sad.
If not, I can keep the book. You know, just
Oh my goodness, yeah. I guess I'm gonna have to give that book to Rick after all.
God, I get a book.
No, oh my God. Oh, that is so disappointing. It's okay. I love you anyways.
This goes back to our listening thing, I guess, Rick.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say the active listening.
Anna won. That's it.
Anna!
Anna won. All
Oh, what was
right.
it?
And it always takes